I think most people who love fighting games probably experienced the greatness of being at the arcade and just enjoying some matches, not with a controller but with a fight pad. Haute42, very known in the space, has this line called the COSMOX gaming Haute pad, and this is the C16S and C16. We'll be talking about both in this video. They have sent this for review that has no impact on my opinions and no money changed hands, and I'm excited to review a fight pad on the channel for the first time. I am familiar with them, although I'll be honest, I've used them mainly in the arcades, so to have this option at home is something I'm quite delighted to experience. No matter the model, you can get them for approximately $75 US on AliExpress, but you can also find them on Amazon for about 100. The unboxing is the same experience, but I'll also show you the differences. Starting with the C16S, and in the back you can see the layout, and if I was to flip over the C16, you'll see that the layout is different, and I'll explain why you may want to go with one over the other. But let's just unbox one right away. So here we have our fight pad. I'll put that aside. An instruction manual, and there's a lot of things that you can do with these, so you probably want to keep that around, because when it comes to changing modes or just addressing the software of your pad, you're going to want that at the handy. Of course, everything that's in there, you can also find it online, but definitely something you want to keep aside for a rainy day. A key puller and some switches in case you want to experience them. And by the way, they're using Kale wind engine switches. They feel very good, and to describe them, it's sort of a linear, fairly silent switch that we have here. So this is not clicky or like a brown cherry. This is very much like a cherry red. You don't hear a click. It's linear. You don't feel a resistance either. It has a fairly low tension, I'd say, but a good travel distance as well. So this is what we have for each of the buttons, regardless of if you go for C16S or C16. You have a braided USB-A to USB-C cable, and you have those different backboards that you could either print your own or design your own, and there's nothing else. But of course, you have options here. And to show you what it's like and what it is used for, here as we look at the fight pad, I have put the white one, but at the back of it, and that's the case for both models, you have a push here, and as you push it, it's gonna lift that little plexiglass, and you can just lift it. It's held by magnets, and you can essentially change what you're gonna put there. So if you wanted to draw on this, if you wanted to print your own, and included, we have a bunch of options. All of them, you see the logos. It's fairly small, fairly faint, so it's not too in your face. I probably would have preferred something that has glyphs that are a little more visible, or maybe stickers to have glyphs on the buttons. You do have a reference that you can use. You just want to install it like this, then you just put back your plate, and there it is. Just like that, we changed the backboard. I'm gonna open real quick the C16 so that we can go straight into why you'd want one over the other. In terms of what's included, by the way, it is the exact same thing. So the idea here is you'd use it like that, right? Your thumbs are going to be on these two buttons. And the big difference with the C16S, okay, so this is the C16S, is you'll notice that I can easily have all 5 of my fingers control the D-pad. And this is going to be the D-pad, by the way. The left side is the D-pad. The right side is going to be your buttons. Bottom is here. Jump is here. So by having all 4 fingers on all 4 arrows at the same time, you could shave off a couple of milliseconds. However, the layout can be kind of confusing, and I tried playing with this a little bit, and my mind hasn't quite wrapped my head around how this works. Now, if I was to practice with this over a long period of time, I definitely can understand how this is beneficial, because you're essentially able to be more proactive on your keys, specifically the D-pad. When it comes to the right side, I'd say for the most part, it's about the same. I mean, the layout is different, mind you, but as far as the effectiveness that you'd have, I feel would be just about the same. As far as I'm concerned, the big difference is going to happen primarily on the D-pad, because essentially you can just effectively do both but down and up, especially when thinking about jumping in a fighting game. I think this is where this is going to be the most efficient. Whereas if you go with the C16, you'll notice that the D-pad, which is right here, has a much simpler array, something that is more akin to what you would expect if you were to use a keyboard, a WASD, for example, which, by the way, you have a mode for that on those fight pads as well. So you could use this as a Switch controller, you could use this as a PlayStation 4, Also, PlayStation 5, even though they say it's not supposed to work, in my testings, it has worked natively on PS5 titles. You can use that also, of course, on an Android, on an iPhone. So anything that can receive a controller setup, you'd be able to work with. The one device where it didn't work for me was the Xbox Series X, but anything else I've tested did work. There are also stick emulation, so you'll notice there's no lever or any sticks whatsoever. If you wanted to convert your D-pad to behave as would a left stick, for example, you can do that with a shortcut, but basically this is more for fighting games. However, I think this is also extremely pleasant for platformers, specifically retro gaming platformers. But, you know, there are definitely modern games in which you'd probably greatly enjoy having a solution like that as well. Now, because I'm not great like that, I'm not smart like that, I am practicing with this one, and I think it's quite interesting, and I see the potential over a long period of time once I sort of broken the shackles of my brain as to what I expect the D-pad to work with, or WASD. But for now, let's just stick to this one. Just know that if you are looking for something to grow with, to improve with, the C16S is probably the option you want to go for. And if you're old and a simpleton like me, you probably want to go with the non-S variant, as this is going to have an easier D-pad. As far as the right buttons, you have your different array here. And I guess this background is maybe a little hard to see, so let me go ahead and change that one as well. You have Entice Kids at the bottom, a fairly good slab on each end, so it doesn't really slide, it stays put. The build quality is really nice. This is textured, so what you see here is not just a sticker of some kind, it's something that you do feel it is textured. The plexiglass here is kind of frosted, it feels quite nice. And then you have a small screen here, a status screen, and you have some RGB as well, which you'll see in a second as I go ahead and plug it in. And before I do plug it in, you have a USB-C up top, but you also have one to the side, and they'll both work for plugging in your pad. And in some cases, I wouldn't guarantee that, but I did try and it worked in some cases, and some others it didn't. I don't know exactly what defines, probably the mode. I would think depending on the mode that you're on, this can also serve as a pass-through. So I would assume, for example, that if you're on X input, you can plug it here, and you could plug another controller here if you wanted. And as far as I can tell, the USB-A, because you have a third port, as far as I can tell, the USB-A is for a debug mode. So unless you are greatly modifying this thing, I don't think most people will be using it. It didn't seem to work as a pass-through. RGB comes up. You also have RGB strip at the bottom. It's coming up right here, all along the side of the device. So, you know, it'll light up around it as well. And it feels quite good. You have your screen here, so you can see some status update. For example, as I'm pushing the buttons here, it's going to happen. Now, if I push here, you'll notice that even though the RGB lights up, nothing happens on the status screen. Some keys are extra that you can remap. You have an M1 and M2. So for example, this key and this key, they don't do nothing as you see the status screen here, even though the RGB around the key itself does work. That's to let you know that right now they're not mapped to anything. Of course, you can map them in the software. We'll look at that in a second. But for everything else, if I push this key, you'll notice here that the status update lights up, push this key, this lights up, and of course I can push multiple keys at the same time. But there's a limit, especially when talking about the D-pad, because a D-pad is working on axes, so you cannot do left and right at the same time. That's why it cancels out, so as long as I release one, it's gonna work. But they do have a snap tap feature, or SOCD. It allows you to push two keys at the same time, or just makes it so that as soon as you push one, it's going to take priority over the other one. Anyways, you have a bunch of features like that as well. You have a turbo. If you're trying to turbo keys, for example, if I want to turbo this key, you can hold turbo, push once, and now it does turbo, and you can do it again and remove it. So turbo is on, turbo is off. And when you put it on, there's a little circle that shows here to let you know that it's activated. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove it. You have a minus key. You have your home. So that's your home button on an Xbox controller, for example, your select and start. And the minus can be used for different things. For example, capture if you were on a switch mode. The idea with this one, as I was saying earlier, is that you can just have your buttons here to control your character, right? So this is your left, right, down, and up. But if you think of this setup, really, it's hard to have all four fingers at the same time. So you could lose a little bit of milliseconds going, especially from bottom to up or down to up. And that's the big difference versus the C16 and C16S. That's really what it comes down to. Now, you could have some kind of weird grip and make it work. It might be counterintuitive, but if that works for you, I know I've seen that happen for some people. It all comes down to your preference. As far as I'm concerned, I like something that is more traditional, so to speak. But if you wanted to have the 4 fingers layout, you could sort of make it work. For example, like playing a fighter, I can understand the benefit of that. But if you're playing a platformer, I feel like you might want to have this layout. But that's going to be up to you. It's nice that they offer both different options. The other thing to keep in mind, and we'll look into that in a second, is that you have a software, a web app that you can address pretty much everything. You can change the buttons, you can change the modes. There's a lot of different tweaks that you can do, but when it comes to modes specifically, you're also able to start the device on a specific mode by holding a specific shortcut. So right now, if you look, I'm on X input, and I'll be honest, I don't remember the shortcuts by heart, but what you want to do is unplug, and let's hold, for example, this button. And as I plug it in and hold it, and now I can let go as soon as the logo goes away. There you go. And now I am currently in the PS5 mode. So that's the PS5 mode. You have a switch mode in there, X input, D input, a keyboard mode, PS4 mode, PS5 mode. There's a lot of them. I don't think I've seen something that has as many modes as this leverless fight pad. And just to reiterate, when it comes to PS5, it may not work, and I believe it's because Sony updates their handshake for the controller to go through. I feel like they know there's a possibility that Sony would block it. That's why they don't want to advertise that feature as being available, because if they say, oh yeah, it works every time, and then you need to wait for an update, or that may never come, they don't want to put you in that position of expecting something that it cannot guarantee it will be doing over time. When I tested it, it worked fine on the PS5. Mileage may vary. Don't buy it for the PS5 alone, but if you have a PS5 and a PC or whatever else you want to use this with, it's worth trying. There's a good chance that it is going to work. Let's go have a look at the software. You want to hold start. Now, because it's a pre-lit button, I don't remember. Okay, so it's this one. So we're going to unplug. We're going to hold start. And now as we're holding start, we're going to plug it in. And that should kick us. You'll notice here that we have a very different screen to what we've seen. And right now we are in some kind of debug mode. And just so you know, especially for tournament kind of use, you cannot make adjustments on the pad itself. You really have to do it from a web app. So that's very important to prevent any manipulations that otherwise tournaments wouldn't want to have. And it's cool that they have that feature. You have different profiles that you can change on the fly. You have a lot of things that you can do on the fly. But as far as just like making deep modifications, you have to go through the web app software. And when I say web app, you don't have to be online because it's all operating on your local or area network. So for example, here I am using this IP, which is 192.168.7 and 1. And so once you're there, there's a bunch of things that you can do. You can address all the different buttons and what they do. You can reassign them. You can make profiles. You can do some things that seems way too intelligent for my blood, so I don't know what all of this is. But this is operating, as I understand it, this is operating on an Arduino board. If you are familiar with all the customizations that these can offer, as far as I understand it, this is customized. This is addressable as well. You can address some of the RGB elements, display configuration. I don't even know what that is. Oh, I guess that's a little display. Yeah. Oh, there it is. The logo. You can make some changes, I guess. Add-ons. So I would assume that maybe one of those extra ports is going to be used for that. You can build macros and back up your data and restore. And then when it comes to settings, you have your different input modes. So when I mentioned there's a lot of, oh, I guess you guys don't see because it's popping as an overlay. Okay, I'll take a screenshot. But when I'm talking about like having a bunch of different modes, that's what I meant. Then you have your gamepad settings when you can put the D-pad mode or left analog, right analog. That's what I mentioned earlier. But you can also do, there's a shortcut that lets you jump from one to the other as well. Have a full-way joystick, your SOCD. Knowing what I know, I don't see how anyone could feel like they're missing out on a feature of some kind when it comes to this. And of course, performance is great, but we'll keep that for the later part of the video. Then when you make your adjustments, you don't have to stay specifically only on one mode. You can address them for X input, for switch mode, for PS mode. So you have all the different options that you can do based off of the mode that you're trying to use. And of course, you can save all that to the device. So yeah, all that to say, there is a lot, and I mean a lot, that you can do with the software. The options are infinite, and if you are extremely invested in these types of games and these types of options, rest assured that you're not going to miss out for anything. One thing that you may miss out on, and I feel almost stupid mentioning it, but just in case someone wants to know, there is no gyro on this controller. There is no rumble. There is no speaker. There's no audio feature of any kind. This is really for primarily platformers and fighters, even though you could take them elsewhere if you wanted. You know, I remember seeing a guy beat Elden Ring with, was it the Ring controller from the Nintendo Switch. So, you know, all that to say, if you want to do some crazy contraption with one of those, you'll have the customization to take it as far as you want it to go. Of course, we're moving towards a conclusion, but before we do that, an audio test and testing it in games. Did I talk about the switches? This is for RGB, and this is to prevent buttons that you may not want. For example, your home and stuff like that. Like if you know you're playing some pretty hectic game and you don't want to hit that home button that will bring up your start menu, start bar, or your Xbox game bar, whatever, you can log these in so that doesn't happen. And you'll notice when you log them in, you don't see the writing. Now, of course, right now I'm stuck on the debug mode, so I'll go ahead and go back into a mode of some kind. Let's do X input. And just to show you what I meant by locking these buttons, right now I can do start, but if I lock this, start no longer works, right? Okay. Well, the reality is when it comes to playing a fighting game, it's just so much faster than using a D-pad and a controller. And it takes rewiring your part of your brain for sure, even though that acts like a WASD and I'm way more versed with that setup. It's still different, you know, like I still find myself having to think about my placement and things like that. And if I was to, you know, play competitively online, I would want to train before I go online with that kind of solution, just because I know that I need to take those hurdles away from my brain and just rewire for when I'm using something like this. But even without having gone to that extent, it's easy to understand why this is so much better, so more flexible to achieve exactly the move that you intend to do and do it in a record time, as opposed to what you'd have to do on a D-pad or a stick. And when it comes to buttons, I mean, it's just about efficient. Don't let the travel distance scare you, because you can also preemptively push these buttons to make sure that you're ready to do exactly the move that you're trying to do. So it's extremely efficient. And then there's also a certain satisfaction, especially from the clicks. I mean, if you're looking for something that is perfectly silent, that may not be it, but oh boy, Blanca got me. But it's so good. And then if you're playing a character like Guile, you know what? Let me change to Guile. You know, fun fact, back in the days that the SNES was the latest console on the market, Guile used to be my guy. But when I realized that I was like limited because of how difficult those moves were to pull, that's when I stepped away from the character. Dude, this is also like a fidget toy. I can't stop smashing the buttons whenever I play with this thing. Oops. Your typical Guile player. Oh man. Dude. There we go. I mean, there's no excuse, right? Me not pulling the moves every time right now is not a product issue, it's a skill issue. And you know, I can be honest and admit it. If I was to train with this, I feel like I'd probably get a lot better executing every time. Right now, I need to figure out my timings right. That's what I'm trying to imply, right? There's going to be an adjustment curve if, just like me, you've never used fight pads. But from what I remember, fight pad is supposed to feel like. That's what I appreciate with this product, is that the price is good, the quality feels great, and it does exactly what I'd expect it to be. And it's going to do it no matter the platform I'm on, whether I'm on the Switch, whether I'm on the PC, or I'm on my PS5. With an asterisk, of course, but you know, it's just gonna work. I wanted to do the little kick, tick, tick, tick. All right, let's move to a game that is not a fighter. Now, for those of you who have seen my videos before, you're not new to this title, and that's also a different way that I greatly appreciate with this solution. That's another approach to fight pads that I think are probably underserved, and something that would definitely be a lot of fun. If you like platformers, especially or fighter beat 'em ups, shmups, I can definitely see myself playing with a solution like that for these types of games, especially the retro ones. It just feels, there's something magical about that feel. It's just nostalgic, it feels good. And I love the sound, the audio experience that we have here, and just the overall switches. And, you know, it's probably going to sound like I'm glazing over a product like this, but it's really a well-executed one. I just feel like you buy this knowing exactly what you're after. And if that's what it is, I don't see how you could be disappointed with it. You know, with the game that I'm playing right now, I could probably see myself wanting to have these buttons, like especially if you play a couple of specific games. Maybe you play Geometry Wars a whole lot. I would see myself remapping those buttons just to have something more akin to what I want, or changing in games if that option is available. The fact that you have all these options available is, once again, something I greatly appreciate from this product. Now, of course, my goal here is not to try to sell you this for a shooter, but just to show you that this is a left stick control that I'm doing right now. And you know, it doesn't have any analog feature. It's not like I can lightly push to go partially. You know, once you push, it's 0 to 100. It is very much a button. But if for some reason you're playing a game and you absolutely need a stick feature, you can do that. And that was easily done by just holding start, back, and left for a couple of seconds. For example, if I hold back, start, and right for a couple of seconds, you'll notice that we will now change to a right stick mode, and now I can control the camera using this. Again, probably not something you want to buy this for, but I'm glad to just show you that somehow it's a possibility if for some reason this is something you needed or wanted. And so this video is coming to a close. Probably one more thing to mention, in case I haven't, this has no battery, so this needs to be plugged in to work. And when it comes to performance, the numbers are pretty impressive. This is pretty much on par with some of the best performing controllers on the market. You're not at risk here when it comes to latency. I was not able to check polling rate just because typically polling rate is checked with sticks. And seeing as we don't have sticks, we can emulate sticks, but it's not proper sticks. So I feel like it's not reliable enough to test polling rate. But the manufacturer does promise 1000 Hz polling rate, which as far as I'm concerned is more than enough. So for something like this, the latency is definitely going to be more important than anything, and you're looking at phenomenal numbers as a whole. At a sub 5 milliseconds, and we're actually half of that with 2.5 on X input, 1.6 on Switch, and 2.7 on PS5. The other thing that I want to highlight here is that it was very consistent through the modes I tested, so that's another strength of this product, and definitely where it's going to be the most important. So buy with confidence when it comes to latency. This thing is fast, blazingly so, and I don't believe that to be an issue of any kind if you're going to be using this product. And so there it is, guys, the fight pad from COSMOX, or otherwise Haute42. You have the C16 and C16S. Go S if you want something that can shave a couple of milliseconds on your operations after needed practice. But if you want something that should work out of the box a little easier, the C16, which is my personal pick of the two, is probably the one I'd recommend. So you know what works best for you. And with that said, if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comment box below. I want to thank Haute42 for sending these in for review. My name is Clef. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.